Welcome to the Pure Property Podcast. Whether you are considering buying your first investment property or reaching property mogul status, we dissect the fundamentals through to large-scale property development and everything in between.
G'day, how you going? Phil Tarrant, co-host of the Pure Property Podcast with Paul Glossop, founder, managing director of Pure Property Investment. We've been at this for a little while and we've navigated what it feels to be many different crises, many different scenarios, many different markets, many different themes shaping property investment. And here we are. And it's going to be one of those episodes. I apologise, where I'm probably going to say, I don't want to sell you, but I told you so. I think we're going to have a fair bit of that today as we unpack the market, running off the back of the federal budget, which is smack bang in the middle of Parliament now as they get ready for the winter break, trying to push through some changes to negative gearing and also CGT. But running in parallel with that is certainly seismic market shifts as a result potentially of those budget changes, but also more wider macro microeconomic fundamentals. And we're also recording only a week or so after the announcement that one of Australia's larger buyers agents has gone into liquidation. And I think we should unpack that a little bit as well to give you a sense for how you should be approaching the market moving forward. Paul, how you going?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's a very, very important podcast today, I think. And yes, we do take a little bit of a jovial approach most of the time, but I think there is some things that are happening that need a little bit more of a serious face on.
No, it probably should be fun, right?
Absolutely.
Is it fun? Is it fun for you anymore?
Let me think of the last 3 months, Phil. Look, I had a really good day 2 days ago in property. Okay. I settled on a investment that I bought 3 years prior to my SMSF, sold and settled, money hit the bank. It's nice to see money hit banks.
Break down the deal for me.
People
love deals.
Okay, that property was, and people can look this up, I'll give you the specifics. It was a property at 31 Vinca Way, Forestfield, Western Australia. Vinca with a V. I bought it, this is going to test some memories, but around about 2023. And I think I paid circa $385 for the property in my SMSF. And we unpacked this a few times, but this specific property it was a dime a dozen, 3-bed, 1 bath, 1 car garage, 700 square metre, brick home, built in 1970s, $385 purchase. I bought it in my SMSF intentionally to trade it at some stage to try and use the leverage power. Yeah. And I think I sold it for circa $800,000.
Oh, really?
Property sold, done, settled, paid the agents, paid the stamp duty, and the best part of $400,000 landed in the account after all of that.
So you had to pay capital gains on that, but that'll happen when you do your tax.
That'll happen when I do my tax. It's in the SMSF, so max 10% CGT. It was pretty close to neutrally geared from day one anyway, because it was renting, when I sold it was renting about $640 a week. Wow. So the rent was fine. Didn't do anything to it in that time that I held it. But that was 2 days ago. On that same day, I had a separate development. I think I was talking about maybe 2 episodes ago that I've been working on, a townhouse development in Sydney. We sold 2 properties in the same day, 2 contracts sold. And they were circa, one was 1.875 million. The other one was 2,075,000.
Why are they so different?
Townhouse, one was a detached villa, fully detached at the back. The other one was a 1 of 3 in a row townhouse. Okay. But they're owner-occupiers. It's a premium product.
Both owner-occ?
All owner-occ. Since then, I've actually sold the last as well. So literally as of yesterday.
Getting paid.
Going through that question, there is fun times where you're like, you go through the processes and you have an idea and you execute and it happens, and that's fun. It's fleeting though. Yeah. You wake up the next day. Wake up the next day and back into it. And I mean, this is why I'm in property. I'm in property for wealth creation. I'm not in it for fun. Yeah. But part of it is fun.
Should be fun.
That townhouse site, as an example. I mean, that took me 4. Here's a funny story on that. I position that property, and we work with some clients who are looking to do active developments. They're a different cohort of our clients. I actually positioned that property to a client in 2022, and it was off market. And at that time, we bought the site. Well, the site was offered to the client at it might have been 2.4 million at the time. Oscillated, pontificated, went through town planners, discussed with builders, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, 4 weeks later went by, looking through it all, and I said, look, I won't use his name, but is this happening or not? Because I can't keep pushing off the agent on an off-market scenario. Anyway, he said, nah, I just don't like it. And I looked at it as much as he did, and I was like, I just can't let this pass. Bought it. Ended up negotiating it further down to, we ended up paying $2.3 million for the site. Built the site for, all in, ended up being about $3.2 million, and we're sold out of the site now for about $7.5 million. So it had a great return on it. And it was a very straightforward, into council, out of council within 6 months. Had a great builder. The builder I've worked with a couple of times over, delivered on what they said they do, probably about 4 months over time, but it is what it is. The market went through its trials and tribulations. We're selling at what is apparently one of the hardest times to sell, but you deliver a product, set your prices at expectations that aren't going to be unrealistic, and it's sold. And
so is the juice worth the squeeze?
Absolutely. I'd do that. I'd do that time and time again if I could find those sites. The thing with those kind of sites that are active and you're not relying on market growth to make them stack up, that they just don't present very often. And you've got to be ready and you've got to know your numbers. And I obviously doing this every day, you have an unfair advantage. You know your numbers, you know the process, you know expectations. You're within 5% variation typically of all of those things. And to go and turn probably $1.5 million gross outcome from a 2.5-year project like that, it's a great outcome. Yeah.
Worthwhile. Anyway, so it probably can be fun. But this is the point also, and I see you've strategically placed your book there, Surface Guide to Property Investing, and
yes,
it largely talks about many different sort of strategies and stuff, but a lot of it is around mindset. And it's easy, particularly in the market that we're in right now, it's easy to go, fuck this, it's easy to just go, nah.
It's fatigue.
The easiest thing to do is to do nothing.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's okay. And I know a lot of people feel that way right now. And we don't yet know how this legislation is going to land. Maybe by the time, I'm not exactly sure when this is actually going to be on air, but we may know how this is going through the Senate and whether or not it needs to go back to the House of Reps and get debated a bit more. Who knows? But it would appear that these changes will go through and become law.
Yep.
Okay. Well, can't do anything about that.
No.
The one thing you can do about it is that in a couple of years' time, you're going to get a chance to have your say who governs the country, and we live in a democracy, and that will determine what that outcome is. So just get on with it would be my advice, but don't get too absorbed or too fatigued or too caught up or swept up in it. Every single person, and I reckon now, and I haven't been to a dinner party yet. I do go to a lot of dinner parties. Well, not really dinner parties.
Are you
but
fishing for an
stuff.
invite there?
No, I don't want to go. I don't want to go anywhere on a Saturday. Please, no one ever invite me. No one ever invite me on a.
He's not a bad dinner party guest for anyone.
I'm actually pretty good at the dinner party. I get a lot of invitations, but the national sport. And I was thinking about this the other day. The national sport has moved away from talking about property to tax minimisation.
Tax minimisation.
Tax minimisation.
You rub shoulders with a different cohort, though, Philip. This is showing all the listeners
it doesn't.
What kind of bloody fluffer you are.
No.
All right. Walk me through it.
What will happen now when you're at dinner table and instead of people going,
how do you
property this? It goes like everyone will start swapping. Already they're doing it, swapping strategies around tax minimisation. Everyone now is a tax expert rather than being a property expert. It's not like Uncle Billy or at the barbecue going, mate, you should buy
the house next to your mum's
or the cab driver. The cab driver, I tell you. No, it'll be Uncle Billy going, what I do. What I do is
a corporate trustee, right?
Corporate trustee. I bought some trees over here and I
offset it there.
Mate, tax minimisation has become a national
It's funny
sport.
you say that, mate, because obviously, unfortunately or fortunately, we live in a world of social media and your algorithm's your algorithm and everyone can change it how you want. But obviously, I'm in property, so my algorithm is property. And I do see a lot of what is property people stop talking about property and start talking a heck of a lot more about tax and why you should consider this and not that. I'm like, well, when's that going to be governed? I didn't know we could talk about tax.
Well, maybe this is a good opportunity for us to introduce, and I don't want to drill down too much into it because there's a lot of noise around it right now. But I think we should give it some perspective. We're all across this Dashdot business, which has gone into liquidation, and from what I've seen around it, and stories just keep coming out by the day around it, it's all a bit murky,
bit smelly.
It's just, I don't know. You run a buyer's agent business, and they're pretty high margin businesses, right? Like, you think there's very little capital required. You just need humans who are good at doing their jobs, right?
Absolutely.
So they're still trying to work out where all the dough has gone. And unfortunately, there's a lot of clients who, and whether it's the Dashdot business or anyone, there's a lot of clients who have stumped up a lot of money for services that haven't been delivered. And I sit there and I just go, that's really, really not cool, that all these property investors have dusted a lot of this dough, and it's still yet to be determined what all that looks like. But what I would say to investors is, if you've done that, you got to question your motives in doing that. If you've gone and paid upfront fees to a buyer's agent for multiple future investments, without any real experience with a business and or any experience really investing in property, you got to take some responsibility for that. I'm just saying it. And that will be probably uncomfortable to a lot of people, because they'll be saying, well, it's not their fault, it's everyone else's fault. But, there's a thing called greed. And I think some people have been a little bit greedy. And again, back to mindset, this whole idea of what is it, where you fear of missing out, FOMO. A lot of people thinking, oh, everyone else is getting wealthy, so I'm missing out, so let me try and accelerate this. I've heard some pretty bad stories about this, but I still sit there and just go, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Like, have you not listened to this podcast, Smart Property Investment Show, Ben Kingsley on the Property Couch? Like, guys, come on. If it's
and there's no and I completely echo your sentiment, Phil, because we've been in this space talking about this for over 10 years in front of a microphone to try and spread this word. Now, it's not trying to talk about what you should buy and where you should buy, but it's talking about first buyer beware. And if you're engaging an expert, whether they're someone who's been in the space and has built a very, very vast portfolio, and you trust what they've done and how they've done it and the processes behind it, or if it's someone who's a enthusiastic amateur or everything in between, when someone's asking for a large sum of money up front for very little, if anything, being delivered, I don't care if it's property or if it's a mechanic or if it's an acupuncturist.
It's relevant.
It's you pay after the service has been provided.
You pay a surgeon after they do the op.
You do. And a lot of the time there is a fee to engage.
Yeah.
And
that's okay.
I'm fine with that as long as it's proportionate to what you're actually getting, because the vast majority of what we do is delivered after the outcome's there. And to a degree, I mean, Phil, you've used our services. You know exactly how it's working. You've been through the process. We charge a very small, and as a percentage,
like
$990 of our fee we charge up front. And here's a fun fact, Phil. When I started Pure Property Investment 12 years ago, the upfront fee then was $990. It hasn't changed.
I think for you and for other buyers agents, and I could rattle out some that I know, it's just really a signal of intent.
That's it. It's a commitment to say we're using you. And for me, I look at it to say you haven't delivered us much more than a conversation, a strategy, and an intent to go and deliver on what we said we're going to do. Yeah. And the sum that we charge is not until after we settle and after our properties are tenanted is when we send an invoice to say our job is now satisfied.
That was my experience.
And that's we do it big, and not because necessarily, we feel like we haven't done a job along the way, because there's a lot of work that we don't get paid for up until that point, and you have to bankroll it as a business owner until then. But I'm not comfortable saying, hey, we've done our job, here's an invoice, until we've done our job. Yeah. And people need to be aware that if someone's asking you for that kind of funding prior to doing any of that work, I mean, unfortunately, in any other service that you engage, I'd be surprised if you would be comfortable handing over any large sum of money for some such things.
We don't. I'm conscious we don't yet know all the facts. A lot of it is hearsay, and
I know firsthand.
There's a frenzy of sort of activity out there right now. But paying for one buyer's agent service up front, I'd really question that, and I'd caution people around that. Paying for two or three up front, some of the numbers I've heard, man, like I just go, and I'm hearing about the tactics around it and the
boiler room scenario and everything.
Look, I don't know all the details, but and this is not a Dashdot thing. This is just a wider conceptual thing, which I've been talking about in this industry, and we've been talking about this industry for quite some time. What's going to play out with this current scenario is that the industry, the buyer's agent industry, is going to have to air its dirty laundry.
Yep.
And everyone knows it's there. And I think, and fortunately, potentially, if that's the right way to view it, that this has taken place. So meaningful and real conversations can happen around it, which I've been supporting and championing for years and years and years and years. Let's not let some practices sully the very important work that some buyer's agents do, but not all buyer's agents are created equal.
Most aren't, in my opinion. My last words on that is if you are in the process or thinking about engaging a buyer's agent to build wealth through property and engaging someone, the one thing I would be very cautious of, in addition to the larger upfront fees that are being asked, is any talk about guarantees.
Yeah.
That word, in my opinion, should be abolished from anything to do with investing in property.
And it'll be because I'm doing this podcast with you and you're a buyer's agent. I'm sort of, people could probably detect that I'm probably being quite careful in the words that I'm choosing right now, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to really express my views on this with a buyer's agent who some people would view to be a competitor to this business or other businesses. So I'll keep my counsel on that for the purpose of this, and I'll look at the I'll look at the dynamics around it. But if you want to sort of dial into real nitty gritty sort of commentary around this, I encourage you to do so. And if you don't mind me setting people to smart property investment around
Absolutely.
that, some of the great work that Liam Garman, who's the managing editor, is doing there, and his team, and of which I'm contributing to, and they're right on this. So go and follow that, and you'll get a sense for it. And I think that will go some way to help in the industry to air its dirty laundry.
Yep.
Because I think everyone wants this industry to advance. This industry being the property investment advice industry.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is still really new and early in its growth, and it's a long way for it to go to really be the professional sector of professional services should be in Australia. So, but you say a point around guarantees, you say a point around other ways in which buyers agents may promote their services with, gimmicky hack type things and this that, and the other. It's all out there. Again, use your nonce. Get educated. If something doesn't smell right, it's probably not right. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Like property investment, back to the point, it's boring.
It should be boring.
It's boring.
And we've talked about this.
It's like but we're obviously in an environment of rapid and significant change, and you spoke about guarantees, right? So I don't want to drill down on that specifically, but conceptually, this idea that if you invest in property, you're going to get rapid capital growth irrespective of where you invest in property, that's not the way it works. And maybe it's been masked like that over the last few years because any man and his dog with a dart and a dartboard could have just thrown a dart somewhere and got some uplift. But that's not the realities of the real world, is it, Paul?
No. And we've seen it time and time again in different markets and different scenarios where the market will shift. There's going to be time where you need to potentially be comfortable doing nothing and it being very slow, or alternatively, in that same time, sweat equity might come back into the fold of giving the property a very basic facelift to lift rents or to lift a market valuation to then get equity out. And all these market segments will play out again, and they already are, and the market's a multi-speed market again. And that's fine. That's the way it's typically operated.
It's opportunity.
And that brings opportunity. So I think it's just a buyer beware. And unfortunately for those who maybe got sucked into the hysteria that was around some of these buyers agents who are a little bit more enthusiastic and maybe a little bit more forceful with and maybe offered things which they essentially just can't back up.
Yeah.
You've just got to step back for a second and just think, how, why, and is that really the avenue that I want to go down?
How does it make you feel personally and professionally when you work in a competitive environment and yourself, and I'd like to think that the lion's share of buyer's agent operate with a sense of professional rigor, but then stuff like this happens, is it good for the industry? Is it bad for the industry? Like, how do you orientate yourself around that and not get sort of caught up?
I think, and I've had no shortage of conversations with new clients, existing clients, and also industry peers over the last probably week and a half, 2 weeks, both about obviously the May budget, but also now since this has all happened. And because this is more of a larger buyer's agent in the business, it's obviously created more awareness. I look at it now to say I genuinely I feel somewhat vindicated, because as a business over the last, probably more so over the last 5 years since the competition in our industry has exploded, I am met with the question so much more often now about what makes you different. Well, this company's offering this AI tool, this company's offering this guarantee, how can you compete with that, or how do you better that? And I being asked that question very regularly. And when I say regularly, like I might have 15 to 20 client meetings a week, and out of those meetings, I could be asked a couple of times a week, almost a verbatim question that's exactly the same. And I look at them saying,
well, why choose you?
Why choose you? And I lean to this now because I can, is that don't choose me because of what I'm going to say next. Because I can say whatever I want to say. And unfortunately, no one's going to hold me accountable to what I'm going to say. What you would be using me for is basically what we've done in the past and what we've delivered in the past and the client outcomes that we've received in the past. It's not necessarily just, hey, look at these results of X amount compounded year on year, or we picked this market early, or any of those factors. It's you're engaging us for trust and for legacy and for long-term delivery. And if someone's going to promise you the outcome that is 12 months of this, 24 months of that, I'm not going to say that, and we never will be. And I guess how this makes me feel is that long term, I think this industry will be better because of it. But I think short term, there's going to be, like you said, some airing of some dirty laundry, which has to happen.
Conceptually, that's the way I'm viewing it. I was thinking about this the other day. I thought it's a huge opportunity for the industry. Like it's uncomfortable.
Yep.
And certain people, myself included, have been talking about it. And here we have a flashpoint, which will probably accelerate a lot of the conversations and decision-making and potentially regulation that should take place in this industry. So to your point around vindication, you're sort of echoing the sentiments of other buyers agents. And this is not a crack at your business, but your business and some of those other people's businesses, they're boring businesses.
Yeah.
Right? There's no hype
around
them. It's considered. It's robust. There's no things around the edges which gives it a little shiny thing, right? It's the practical. It's like a good accountant or a good lawyer.
Do good work, repeat it.
Do good work and repeat it, and get the basics right and get the fundamentals. And fundamentals get thrown around with property investment all the time, but it's the same in property investment businesses. And I think of other businesses around this, like, they'd be competitors of yours, like potentially Ben Kingsley's business.
Yeah. And I speak with Ben as a colleague
Victor
regularly.
Kumar
at Victor as well. Rich Harvey at Property Buyer. There's a number of them who have just done the same thing year in, year out, a decade in.
Hasn't changed that much.
And you go look at their marketing from all of that time, I can almost guarantee that it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
And the hardest part, I think, Phil, in the last 5 years is for me to resist wanting to change.
Yeah.
To be honest,
it's easy to see it.
And it's
like you go, well, why are they doing this? It must be right.
Yeah.
And they being whoever, right?
And you think, we'll get more clicks, we'll get more inquiry, we'll get more people wanting to use this. Well, we're a small team intentionally, and I've resisted wanting to grow to a 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 staff team because of that too. Because once you start promising things that you genuinely, I have no confidence that we can actually deliver, or changing to some gimmick that might be a flash in the pan just to try and get more people through the door, we go away from what's core to why we're doing it and what we're doing it. And that's probably been the hardest part, is to resist trying to join in with this ridiculous chorus that's been going on for a while.
And this is the theme I've been chatting about and sort of musing with for some time. It's about the industrialization of property investment advice through buyer's agents. And I don't think, and I know some people are trying to have a go at this, Aussie, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a completely different model with a very different distribution mechanism and stuff.
But ultimately, it's the same. It's just engage us to essentially source, whether it's an owner-occ or an investment for you, but they use their franchise model to distribute, so it goes to locals potentially. And
what is better is that are you better off working with a smaller, more nimble, tighter, focused organisation like yours, and which which probably doesn't have the pressures of a much larger organisation and everything that comes with that. You know, the more staff, the more issues you have, the harder it is to control, the more reliant you are
bigger
on.
pressure on your bottom line.
All of this stuff, right? All of this stuff. And you know, if this Dashdot situation is a case study in trying to industrialize a large buyer's agent business, maybe there's some clues in that. You know, and maybe naturally this sector will, you know, it will be made up of highly focused professional smaller operations and organizations that deliver value. And I think that's conceptually one part of it, but the main part of it is that there is not that many brilliant properties out there to find in Australia. No. So, you know, this whole idea of like everyone gets off-market properties. There's off-market properties everywhere. It's just like this mystery of off-market properties in every
blankets off suburbs. Like, look at all these.
And every buyer's agent, because what it does is, this is to a bigger issue, and I think you'll see this cascade now as these markets change, is that the industrialisation of buyer's agency manipulates markets, and we're seeing that take place right now. And I think we'll find that happen over the next period of time, where a lot of clients who have purchased in particular locations, which were promised maybe guaranteed capital growth, outside of the capital cities, they'll be in sort of regional towns. I think you'll find that the performance of those markets may not be what people were promised.
And it might have, and it very well might have been the last 2 or 3 years. You know, those who got in that time a little bit earlier, they'll be okay. But it's more, how do you get out of those markets? And you know, there's bigger markets that have struggled immensely over the years, over the decades, over the cycles. And it's not no market's immune to this. But I can tell you firsthand that the markets that suffer more when you look at a higher percentage of investments is that the owner-occupiers are the only ones who will buy a property when a market turns. Yeah. They're the ones who are going to buy. You're not going to find investors who are opportunistic.
Right
exactly. You're not going to buy opportunistically in Townsville as an investor if the market turns and is down 10% from its peak.
Well, the thing is that,
as an investor.
But this is the point also. Now, structurally, you know, they can't, because they can't negative gear anymore, and their serviceability is being shaved.
And it's now this is added fuel to the fire.
Down.
Exactly. So for me, it's word of warning there is just, if you're not buying property for a 7, 10, 14-year outcome, don't buy property in the first place. If it happens quicker than that, we've always said this, then fantastic. And we've got plenty of markets that have happened quicker than that.
You had a good story with
exactly. I've got that story, but I didn't buy it for 3-year outcome. The 3-year outcome happened and I just took advantage of it, but I didn't buy it for that. And I never would advise anyone to buy because of that reason. You know, we're not buying in a market because we think the next 2 years is going to be amazing and we're going to get in and out. If you're buying for that, we've talked about this other stat to nauseum as well, is that you need to make anywhere between 7 and 9% growth on a transaction before you've broken even. You call it 10% once you round it all up. That's your stamp duty, your acquisition cost, your sales cost, and everything else that goes in between that. And that doesn't even factor in your negative gearing along the way as well. 10% you need to make. Typical growth in Australia is anywhere between 5 and 7% annualized in most markets. Now, if you're getting something like that might be minimum 2 to 3 years of growth before you've actually broken even.
So it makes you worthwhile. Well, speaking of breaking even, and I remember when it came out and you could go and tune into it, we probably spoke about it as well, when the government decided to extend its first home deposit scheme, which I think up until, I think it was launched in 2020, and I think there's about 300,000 people who subscribed to it up at this point, right? But since that expansion in October,
last
about
year,
30 or 40,000 people have subscribed to it, right? And at that point in time, I just went, this is madness, and this is what's going to happen.
Well, I think we recorded a podcast basically exactly that, saying this is what's going to happen, guys. So go back to our September or October 2025 podcast, and we did a full episode on this. So watch what happens.
Watch what happens. So you've got all these first-time buyers who are concentrating in a particular price point. Now you're going to have all these property investors who are going to be concentrating in a particular price point, purely because structurally most of them were limited in their serviceability already, and they got rid of trust-based lending and all that sort of stuff. And now negative gearing is reduced. So it means pretty much every single person buying property in Australia, first-time buyer or property investors, are all clustered probably in the bottom third.
Right? 100%.
Which presents a lot of really good opportunities in certain markets. But in that particular cohort, there's going to be a lot of positive pressure. So let's just hope that positive pressure sustains prices. because other people have now picked up on this theme around negative equity for first-time buyers. And you just said, it takes you a year of capital growth just to cover the cost to actually enter a market, right? Stamp duty. Obviously, first-time buyers, there's breaks and incentives and all that stuff around it, right? But interest rates going up. They've gone up 3 times since they stopped going down, and now all these other sort of consequences of the budgets. They're talking about price reductions, and a lot of younger Australians, it's all about younger Australians these days, being in negative equity,
And I think that there's certain markets that are going to suffer far more for this, and we talked about this before we went on air today, is that the negative equity position, I think, is going to be concentrated probably to, I think Sydney's going to be in the firing line.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why, if anyone's thinking, well, why would it be one market versus another? Well, it's not the market per se, it's where the first home buyer incentive allowed people to buy, and every market's got a different cap as far as the price point. Sydney has $1.5 million up to buy with a 5% deposit and no stamp duty and no lender's mortgage insurance.
There's no stamp duty at up to 1.5.
Well, that's the first home buyer, the first home buyer deposit scheme, correct? So, so effectively, for a $1.5 million property, they would need $75,000 to jump in and buy a $1.5 million property. Now, most investors aren't in that space, but the reality is Sydney's got a higher cap versus Brisbane versus Melbourne versus Adelaide, etc. And that's why it's more at risk and is already a market that's at really close to its maximum affordability. It hasn't necessarily seen any amazing growth for the last 18 to 24 months, and the likelihood is, based on where interest rates are and yields are, it's not exactly planned to take off anytime soon from an investment standpoint. So you don't have these people competing in that same space. That being said, though, down in that lower $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 market, and that's including Sydney, because there's plenty of properties in Sydney that still fit within that category. Yeah. The yields are higher as a percentage of purchase price. Your holding costs are lower. First home buyers can obviously enter into those markets left, right and centre. Those markets are probably a little bit more immune, and that's not just Sydney. That's certainly parts of Melbourne, Geelong, Ballarat, Brisbane markets, right across the Ipswich out to the north to Moreton Bay, and then across the Adelaide markets and Perth markets. Those still those $700,000, $800,000 price caps. We're still finding that the data, albeit very early, is showing that they're probably going to be more immune to the downside as a percentage. Yeah. But also, if you lose 10% on a $700,000 property, it's still significant. It's $70,000. Yeah. But compared to a $1.5 million property that goes down by 10%, it's a very, very big difference. And if you're taking out a 95% loan as a first home buyer, that negative equity position
and you think about this, and this idea of the budget is to balance how people pay tax is where it's been framed. So saying the money that you make by doing work should be taxed the same way of the money that you make through investments. And they're trying to, the system's distorted allegedly. Yeah. So they're trying to line it all up. So, and the idea of that is to help more Australians own their own home in a market which potentially puts them in negative equity. So there's got to be case studies on this into the future, and it's probably going to go down as one of the worst schemes ever the government has ever implemented. When you look at the long-term impacts on these younger Australians, and let's talk about younger Australians, they're in their 30s, most of them, right? Yeah. Taking on huge amounts of debt.
Encouraging them to.
Incentivizing them to take on all these amounts of debt that will put them in a position of probably financial stress. And you look how financial stress cascades into stresses in other parts of life. Financial issues are one of the greatest things that accelerate relationship problems that can't be resolved relate to divorce. That means you're going to get a lot less kids born, and they're talking about that anymore as being born, which accelerates into significant issues and problems around. If you get the cascading facts of relationship issues, work issues, financial issues, that can really compound in a very negative
it does.
Issues around mental health and if you're in this situation
for the
right now,
the children, I mean, the
it's a big thing.
Is
and if you see yourself and find yourself, or someone where you can sort of see these things starting to cascade, the advice is get on top of it straight away. And if it does manifest into concerns around mental health and stuff, there are bodies that can help you with that. Lifeline, for example, I'd highly encourage to get on these things pretty early. But it's not there yet. But these people dialing into, and whether it's investors or first-time buyers, but when you see these things manifesting and people become trapped, financially trapped in a property that they can't sell, or they can sell it, right? Because fortunately there is a safety net that no one is talking about because, again, it's very uncomfortable. That if the lender has borrowed 95% against a property for a first-time buyers, if that property needs to be sold because the person who purchased it can't afford to service the debt, they can exit, right? And their exposure to it, from what I understand, is 80% because the government has
guaranteed it.
Has underwritten the 15% that the lender's mortgage insurance would normally pay
Correct.
for. So I think that's conceptually how it works.
Yeah,
So
correct.
who pays for this?
You
The
and
Australian
I.
taxpayer. The Australian taxpayer will need to, if people find themselves in this situation, the Australian taxpayer will pay the lender their money so they don't lose out.
And we know that that's always last resort, right? We know that.
Yeah,
that
but this is the point. People will scramble as much as they can. They'll take on more jobs. They'll take on 2 jobs,
upheaval.
3 jobs. This is this cascading manufacturing thing, and we're certainly looking down the barrel of this.
Well, in a segment of the market, we absolutely are. But I think ultimately, what is being sold to us is that this is supposed to make housing more affordable in Australia, and I don't know how many more times we can talk about how ill-advised and structured this whole campaign is, and it's a vote grab. But there is no shortage of issues that we have in the housing market, and it all comes back down to the cost that it is to deliver housing, and the cost to deliver housing is the issue that we've talked about in multiple different scenarios, that there is approximately 40% in total taxes that it costs for whether it's a mum and dad or a larger scale developer to bring a property from purchase to delivering it and selling it to an owner, occupier, an investor, or anyone in between, whether it's NDIS, affordable defence housing, etc. It's approximately 40% that goes into it is total from local to state to federal taxes. That is where the valve
supply problem.
That is your supply problem every single time. Yeah. And until that is addressed, we won't see house prices come down in anything that's going to be meaningful.
They're saying they're addressing it. I saw Claire O'Neill, the housing minister, on the TV the other day saying, yes, but we've committed $2 billion to this end of sort of thing. And most developers and developers are going, do you guys realise how far that goes?
I still, no one's actually just asked the question. So what does $2 billion actually get you?
Over 4 years, that's 500 million.
And they want to deliver 1.2 million. They want to deliver 1.2 million dwellings over the next 5 years, divided by $2 billion.
It does it.
Yeah. To deliver civils, I've got a 24-lot land subdivision in northern New South Wales that I've had to take from a 2-hectare paddock to deliver, to actually be ready to build on. It's cost $1 million to do curb and guttering, to deliver stormwater and sewer for 24 lots.
Yeah.
So 24 lots, it is $1 million. If I'm doing that to $2 billion? Yeah. So, what does that cost?
It's just hyperbole. It's just headlines, right? So anyway, so the point around it is that
that's 48,000.
50 grand each. Yeah.
That 50,000 dwellings. If you're doing
50,000 dwellings.
That's 50,000 dwellings. That's what $2 billion will deliver you in that scenario.
So there's got to be a cluster of pressure put on certain markets. Great. Now everyone already, they're coming out of the woodworks, buy new because you get negative gearing and tax depreciation and all this sort of stuff.
The way you did before May 12th.
Yeah.
Nothing's benefited you. It's the same.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
So this is the market we're operating in right now. So what do you do about it? Is it time to buy?
Well, I'll add this data into the conversation because Cotality yesterday or day before yesterday released their annual rental data and broke that down on a monthly, annual, and weekly. And the last 12 months to May 2026, rents in Australia grew by 5.9%. Okay, so that's without any changes to.
That's before any of this.
That's before any of this stuff comes in. So if you take 10% of the investors out of the market for a period of time, there's going to be 10% less property. I don't care what people say. You don't build property overnight.
Yeah.
So if more property does get built, great. It will take 3 years probably at a minimum to start to see the supply trickle through. And they can talk about, you'll take investors out, so that means first home buyers jump in. That's not how it works. Yeah. First home buyers could have bought on May 11th, that they can buy the same property on May 12th. Sydney hasn't really grown. Melbourne hasn't really grown in 24 months. There's markets out there that you can buy a $500,000 2-bedroom villa in Western Sydney today.
Yep.
They're there. All these properties still exist. So I guess the data, and this is where people are going to start to look back in 5 years' time and think, holy heck, we have a problem that is only supply. It's not a taxation problem, it's a supply problem. And the taxation problem sits solely with the government. It doesn't sit with the investor or anyone else. The average rent in Australia as of May 2026 is $692 per week. Yeah. If you apply 5.9% compounded rental growth, and let's assume that the growth stays the same in rents, and I think it'll actually increase over the next 2 or 3 years as this all filters out, the rent then becomes $915 per week in 5 years' time. So by 2031. Compounding.
Yeah.
That works out to be about $11,300 per year more that the average renter will pay in 5 years' time. Now, in that time, they're talking about
natural market growth.
That is that 5.9% on your average weekly rent as of today.
That seems to be a lot more than the $2 that
slightly more than, but this has got nothing to do with this increase. That'll be in addition. So let's just assume this plays out the same way it has over the last 12 months. They're talking about using these to make housing more affordable and to essentially put money into the lower income earners' pockets. And they're talking about as of 2028 with these tax cuts, et cetera, that will bring an extra $3,000 per year into their pay packet. But in that same token, they are also increasing rent. And the majority of people who are renting are going to be those sub 40-year-olds. This is going to be the exact same cohort of people. They're increasing their the annual out-of-pocket expenses by $11,300. So, well, if you look at the difference, we're going to be worse off by $7,000 or $8,000 based on their projections, not made up numbers. These are actual numbers. And then you load in all this BS around, well, they're not changing bracket creep and all the other things that are going through conversations right now. Yeah. We're going through the highest level of inflation we've seen since you and I have been in the workforce. Yeah. And yet the tax brackets aren't moving.
To see here.
The tax brackets aren't moving, and they're not proposed to move with that as well.
That's what the Libs are sort of suggesting.
Well, it's common sense. Like you can't see GDP sub 2.5% and inflation at 4% or 5% or 6%, and then say, well, we've got less. Things cost more, and we've got less money. But yet we'll keep the tax brackets exactly the same.
Because you need to keep taxing in order.
Because we need to keep taxing. I'm like,
yeah.
You want, and it goes back to what my argument here is that if you're actually serious about Australians getting into more houses and more affordably, give the opportunity to bring more supply to the market by changing the tax laws around developing property. It is
that's what we're chatting about up until the budget, which really didn't get looked at.
Didn't get spoken about. There's not even a word. I mean, Housing Association of Australia. I mean, how is there no voice there that's being heard? Because
they're pretty active.
They are, but they're not getting. I mean, obviously it's getting drowned out. I mean, they're obviously going through this process to say, look, guys, you know you're missing the point. Yeah. But yet you choose to use this as a scare tactic and victimize one end and essentially.
I actually spoke to the CEO of HIO down in Canberra, and they're echoing all these things, but I just don't think the government listens outside of its little bubble of the unions and Treasury modelers and forecasters.
I don't know if they don't want to, Phil, or if they're way smarter than what I give them credit for, and they've got an ulterior motive.
I was chatting to Tom Panos about this, and like, we'll text back and forwards and just like talk about crap and ideas and issues and stuff. And he asked me a question. It was like, it was around all this stuff, and I went, Tom, I generally believe that the government of the day really believe that what they're doing is the right thing.
Bill Shorten seems to. He's been out of the game forever.
They're absorbed and obsessed with it, that this is the thing that will right Australia. And look, good on them for being so focused. But then you hear on the other hand, you just go, none of these blokes have never even run a chip shop, let alone any sort of business, than the whole of the economy. Their argument would be, yeah, but we've got all these smart people that help us with this. But this is the point. They don't listen to those smart people. They don't listen to those smart people who can help them actually form more sensible decisions.
Well, they do. The
around
ones who essentially given the advice that supports their doctorate, the confirmation bias component is what they'll take. They'll say, that's what we want to hear.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
And this is the same policy that, we're talking about. The market's changed dramatically in the last 10 years, but Bill Shorten lost the election on a dramatic majority of what this has all been proposed 9 years ago.
It is confirmation bias. They'll go and ask the right people. The Grattan Institute,
yep.
They told us exactly.
Absolutely.
Grattan Institute.
Far out. It's just, it's mind-boggling. And most of this stuff has been the same rhetoric that's been peddled for 15, 20, 30 years. And unfortunately, the rise of the Greens about 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago in that smaller era probably is what's allowed this.
Yeah.
And that's why we're in this mess right now.
Well, look at it now, though, is that, I know the polls are probably making them a bit jittery at the moment because, One Nation's now the preferred party, right?
Well,
who would have thought? And this is a lot of Labor voters, right, who have got, and this is not like more Liberals going over One Nation. They've already left, right? These are Labor voters going, man, this is, I had a guy in the office here yesterday, a property investor, and he goes, I've never voted for the Labor Party to the last election. And I went, what was I thinking? After all this stuff, and a lot of Labor voters are thinking that right now. But you know what? Let's see how it plays out. It'll go to election. Irrespective of all of that stuff, a lot of investors now are thinking maybe that's not the time to buy.
It will be a referendum. I mean, the next election
is a referendum on property taxes.
And tax in general. Because it's not, we talk about property because this is a property podcast. Yeah. This is not a tax on property. This is a tax on capital gains. This is a tax on negative gearing.
It's a tax on aspiration.
It's a tax on small business. So everyone that's been getting all the airtime. The taxation part it's neither here nor there. I genuinely, from all the data, there's no one who can genuinely believe that it's actually going to move the needle in any direction from the tax component. It's ultimately just a hymn sheet that everyone has to sing to get the outcome, to try and sell it to this 20 to 35-year-old voting cohort. That's what they're trying to do.
But the thing is also is that no one's actually saying, if you're in your, there's people down in there, 18, 19, 20-year-olds subscribing to these 5% deposit schemes, right?
Yep.
Aren't people just going, don't be in such a hurry to grow up? Why are you, there's this conceptually, right?
Yeah.
Invest in property, that's fine. But you don't need to be in a hurry to lock yourself into a huge amount of debt on a 95% deposit scheme in your early 20s in order to have, inverted commas, the dream of home ownership. Man, don't buy property in your 20s. Go out, spend all your money on booze, travel the world, be an idiot.
Yeah, start a business, fail.
Start a business, fail. It's the only time in your life where you're going to have the time and the opportunity without the responsibilities to go and do stuff. Why would you tether yourself in your early 20s to something like this, unless it was an investment property that allows you to do that,
We started our investment journey 15, 18 years ago, and we rented. You didn't have kids, didn't have a family when you started. I didn't have kids, didn't have a family when I started. I was doing all the things that we're talking about. So were you back then. You were trying things. You were working a job. You were traveling. You were starting businesses. You were failing, succeeding, and everything in between. All of that stuff. But at the same time, you're investing in property.
Yeah.
So what you didn't do, and what I didn't do, is we didn't buy a home that we could afford at the time, mind you. We could have bought, and we weren't anywhere near the point of wealth where you would otherwise say, if the first home buyer 5% deposit scheme, it was available then, I still wouldn't have taken it, but I would have figured out, how can I use this to start my investment journey? Definitely maybe would have considered that. But what it would have done, and I can guarantee you, if I knew that I bought back then the house that I could stretch myself to afford, I wouldn't have done anything that I've done since then.
You'd be locked.
I was locked in. The choice is made for me. And to your point, why do people think that buying a home and having a maximum mortgage that you are the only person to actually be responsible to make those repayments on is a dream?
So
it is not a dream.
That's the point. And I've spoken about this. Why is the government so wed to this idea of it's not the 1940s. It's not like you got to accelerate young people in homes to raise families and all that. You should be able to have a choice around this, right? But they sold this idea, and then they come back to this idea. There's 75,000 young Australians that we want to get into their first home in 10 years. That's 7,500 people. Is this a year? Is this all orientated towards this great Australian dream? The great Australian dream is very different. Still a great dream to be in Australia. Still a great country to live. Maybe the narrative isn't what it used to be.
And home ownership's a great dream too.
Absolutely.
It's not to say that I would never want to discourage someone from saying at some stage in your life you're going to get to the point where you can buy your home, your dream home. Brilliant.
If that's what you want.
That's aspirational. But it also is, and this goes back to what we're talking about 15 years ago, is what I could afford to buy at my absolute maximum 15 years ago was not my dream home.
No.
It certainly was nothing close to it. If anything, if people want to know what it was that first time, the first one was the first investment, which could have been that, was a 2-bedroom villa in Mount Druitt. Yeah. Now, look, it's a place that a lot of people live.
Great dream.
But it's not my dream home that I'm going to raise a family in. It would be a starter home.
Yeah.
But again, like, why does someone need to lock themselves in to go and buy that as their home? Because it just doesn't make sense. Like, why do we want to say that that's what this whole thing is supporting?
These are the conversations that Australia needs to be having with itself.
And young Australians, I want them to get on the voice piece and saying, look, we don't want the 5% incentive. I don't want a mortgage.
They feel the most let down by
by everyone, I think.
Yeah, they're sitting there just going, it was bad before, it's even worse than now. Right? They're going, hang on a second. So you've taken away all of these things that older people have been able to use to get ahead. So you've just hobbled us. But the government, and as we're talking now, it's getting pushed through. The government is going to give you $250 more bucks a year back in your in your tax, and you can write off $1,000 in your tax without any documentation now.
I just don't even.
What a great win! What a great win for Australians! Like, really? Yeah. $250. I don't know what's a pack of holiday 50s.
I don't even want to know anymore. I was hearing the stats only as of this morning talking about apparently 80% of all cigarettes that are sold now are illegal.
Oh yeah, of course,
illegal. So there's zero tax collected on 80% of cigarettes that are being smoked in this country. That's up from 18% in 2017. Yeah. And here we are talking about tinkering with property tax.
I can't remember the numbers with this. And if they just collected that money, it would be...
It was about $12 billion.
It'd be more than negative gearing.
It was 3 times more than negative gearing annually put together.
To be fair, though, I don't smoke, I've never smoked. No, mate. You'd be buying your smokes illegally.
But the policies failed, right? Because they're like, well, we'll tax people more, we'll get less people smoking, we'll take more tax. I'm like, I get the policy, but it's failed, so change it. Yeah. Because, completely
there's bold tax reform. Oh, why don't you start a political party? No tax on lungies party.
Well, but honestly, like, it doesn't work.
Stop these toxic
and they were talking about the fact that there's been an increase now in total cigarettes being smoked.
Yeah.
So the actual net effect has mean that cigarettes have gotten cheaper than what they were 5 years ago. So more people are smoking, and all of a sudden now we're actually taking less tax and more people are smoking. So we're going to have a bigger healthcare bill in 15 years' time.
Well, they reckon peptides are going to fix all this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They'll tax them next.
They'll hurry them into they'll tax the G's out of peptides.
Oh, geez.
Anyway, where should you buy?
Oh,
give me a hotspot. Love a hotspot.
Well, it's all in
all this stuff. It's all
in the book, Philip.
No,
a Surfer's Guide to Property Investment. Yeah. Well, it talks about a lot of cycles in there, and you know what? Lo and behold, it talks about a lot of different tax changes that have happened over the last 30 years.
You're going to have to do an update
as a direct result of it. Well, we will do an update. Typically, it's every 5 years, but that one there, I was going to go and buy that at purepropertyinvestment.com and get you can actually get an audio book for $4.95.
Really? Is it a robot speaking or is
it's me? Yeah, okay. Me-bot.
A me-bot.
Or you can buy the hard paperback.
Can you still get it in the bookstore?
Absolutely. Father's Day is coming up at some stage.
Really?
Or Mother's Day is a long time away.
King's birthday weekend.
King's birthday weekend. There you go. Treat yourself. $12.95.
Well, one of the greatest property investors of all time, the King of England. He owns half of bloody England.
Did he invest?
Oh, they invested a long time ago. No. I think was it the Duchy of Cornwall? I think that's now Prince Philip's as well.
Good property, good real estate down Cornwall way as well.
Man, no, it's the whole thing. It's just like, but they own half of Mayfair.
No doubt. And that's never changed.
They're great property investors. If you want any clues on generational wealth creation, go and have a chat.
Was there negative gearing benefits back then?
No, I don't think so. I think they just tax the people a bit more. You know,
Look, I mean, if we go back to the question, Phil, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
We were talking about this 3 months ago when we
Everything's different, but nothing's changed.
Launched the Fast 50. The Fast 50, and going back to that, if anyone hasn't downloaded that yet, go down
I
to
wonder how that's going to go.
smartpropertyinvestment.com.
Well, there's your name on it.
Mate,
I got nothing to do with that.
I'm absolutely fine. I'm fine with the Fast 50 because the Fast 50 is still exactly the same markets that are still in a position from an undersupply standpoint and are showing value in areas which are essentially not performed. And lo and behold, those markets which we had to take away from, which is the markets that were booming, which was the Brisbanes, the Perths, Adelaides, from our side of things at Pure Property Investment, hasn't been included in what we expect over the next 12, 24, 36 months because, the data is now telling us that.
Maybe we need to do a new Fast 50 on new properties.
The post.
Where the Fast 50 suburbs to buy new.
And also the fastest 50 dropping suburbs.
Yeah, we should do.
We should actually. That's probably a good one.
No, do you reckon it matters?
The 50,
would you be buying new? There's the last question. Do you buy new now because you get the negative gearings and you get the depreciations?
In short, no.
Okay.
No. That hasn't changed that whole mantra. They're not cheaper. They're not going to grow quicker.
Yeah.
But there are still a very, very small percentage of new properties out there that make sense.
Yeah.
But there's still the same percentage that made sense before May 12th.
There you go. You happy to talk to people if they're worried, concerned? Hey, by the way, I stopped to get a takeaway last night, which I do
Potato
on Wednesday
scallops?
night. No. Mate, where I live, I can't buy them.
No.
No.
You're not allowed to. They've barred you. They've got your face up on them.
You know when you go to a pub and they say, when you go in there, when you go,
I don't care what I say. Do not sell me 6 potato scallops.
Because you can ban yourself from gambling, right? No, you told us, Phil, no more potato scallops. Yeah. Come on, man, just give me one.
Just one.
Just give me one. No, I'll buy them only when I'm in out of the city.
Out of your postcode?
Yeah, out of my postcodes because they're just no good. They're just no good. And
back to your story, takeaway.
Anyway.
I don't know what you were buying.
It was Thai.
Oh, okay.
I got a Thai food.
I got Thai last night.
Food, yeah. And which was $10 for 2 spring rolls.
Ooh.
Mini.
Very,
I just
very expensive.
My wife is so sick of me now. Like,
right.
I very rarely go into a supermarket with her because I just don't think she likes it. But we walked in the supermarket the other week and I went, what do you, don't buy mandarins at $9 a kilo.
Yeah, they're not in season.
You know, but then, and I go, a blueberry punnet, $12.
Oh my goodness. You know times are good.
And I said my kids, they just go, gone.
Oh, they're gone. You put it all onto one bowl of yogurt.
Yeah. And I just go, no. So I was just, and so she went, I'm going outside, you sort this out. And I bought the cheapest apples
Philip,
I could.
you and I are cut from the same cloth for a lot of different reasons.
Anyway, so there's a story here. So, and they went, it was busy, and I went, how long is that going to take? And I went, 25 minutes. And I went, okay. So I said, there's a pub 2 doors down. So I went to the pub, walked in the door, and I went, I'll treat myself to a schooner, half of which is tax, right? There's another taxi if you want it. And I hear, there's a familiar face. And I went, oh, how's it going? And this person goes, we haven't met before, but I know you. I listened to your podcast. I've listened to it for years and years and years. I think it's absolutely brilliant, blah, 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 blah. He goes, I'm currently getting a property through Paul.
Well, there you
and
go.
I went, oh, there you go. And I went, I looked at him and I went, oh, you going for a run or whatever? And he goes, I'm riding home. But he goes, so he had some problem. And he goes, so there's all these problems or issues with some title issue on something. I was trying to do it and blah, blah, blah. And it was all, so I just got myself a pint of beer on the way home.
Gotcha.
Before I rode home. And I went, okay. Let me get a beer. I got 20 minutes. I'll have a yarny. I sat and have a yarny. Guy's in the Navy. You'd probably work out who it is.
Yep.
I won't tell you who.
Yep.
But he was a lovely, lovely bloke.
Yep.
You know, he's been overseas for quite a few years and he's back in Australia and he was going hard building out property. And I was like, he had a great story and, you know, driven and passionate, and he wasn't too concerned or worried about all these tax issues and all this sort of stuff. He was just a focused, driven bloke who knew his numbers, and you can see he was really into it. And it's really nice when it happens because it sort of reconnects me with like just how passionate people get when they're in property.
Absolutely.
And back to the earliest point I made, and often that can cloud, I'm not saying this gentleman, but often that can cloud decision making where they get greedy and they start paying out huge deposits to people to find them properties for services that won't get delivered. So, you know, so make sure bottle, like you've got to, maybe it's a chapter for your book around mindset, is like the mindset is good as a part of mindset is good, but don't let that absorb every aspect of your life, and you become obsessed with property and you start making bad decisions.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's this guy, but
you do have to take that chill pill every now and then.
Yeah. Anyway, it's good. Yeah, so he seemed
that's
pretty
very
happy.
interesting though. And I'm assuming that person's probably listening to this podcast. So
probably will do.
I won't use any names because I don't know who you're talking about, but power to them for listening and obviously making a plan and taking action. And planning for probably 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
They're probably not thinking, what I'm going to buy this property and I think in 3 years' time I'm going to sell it and I'm going to move to Thailand. Yeah. This is just part of a long-term wealth creation strategy.
Really, really nice guy and I enjoyed chatting with him. So if you're tuning in, thanks for saying g'day. But so you're happy to chat with people?
Yeah.
What's the best way?
Purepropertyinvestment.com.
You're happy people just going, I don't know, Paul, like, you might be probably more.
I'm having a lot of those conversations
counselling
right now.
than.
Yeah. And it's fine because, as much as my time's as valuable as the next person's, I think a lot of the time we like to have those initial conversations to get people both, I think, on the same page to say, here's why we suggest you be buying, here's what to expect. And here's probably what to expect out of some of these changes. And also a lot of the time now with new clients and also existing clients, I want them to come to us with all the warts and all scenario of where they are because they might have properties in certain areas that are at certain points in the cycle. And there's conversations there's some of those conversations are now starting to lead towards, is there opportunity to divest? Because this is, good lead ups with good growth also leads to good opportunities to take profit and recycle elsewhere.
So it's really knowing your portfolio now because you do have a window now still CGT 50% up until the end of next financial year.
Which is not going to move the needle left or right.
Because you're only going to pay, if there's, everything gets grandfathered at that point in time. So it's only the growth you've had over that period of time is going to be indexed. So the big scheme of things, like people are going to go,
you're going to go from maybe 24 cents in the dollar tax on growth you've had over the last 5 to 10 years versus maybe 28 to 33 cents in the dollar for anything that you buy today or after that period of time. July 1st,
so you probably shouldn't be making your decisions.
Definitely don't. Yeah, definitely don't. In my opinion, you're like 5%. I call move the needle 5%, maybe more in tax. Yeah, it sucks. If you're buying property after May 12th, or if the property you're holding already grows after July 1st, 2027. But if I'm making a decision on why I would or wouldn't invest in something on a 5% tax difference in the end, that's certainly not going to be a reason why or why not to.
Smart cancel, purepropertyinvestment.com.
They can give us a call, 1300 98 5428, send an email to inquiry@purepropertyinvestment.com. You can jump on my calendar and lock in a time immediately.
Sweet. All right. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Probably a little bit more serious chat this time around than at other times, but it is certainly a time of flux, and depending how you're wired, you can see an opportunity in that. And, if you want to be a decision maker and a decision taker, now's the right time to be doing it if you got everything squared away. I know people with really strong balance sheets at the moment, personal financial balance sheets who are looking for opportunities. So if that's you, I'd be considering it. Go and have a chat with the team over at Pure Property Investment. We'll see you again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.